All right, let's turn our Bibles to Ephesians chapter 6, please. Ephesians chapter 6, we'll go ahead and pick it up here in verse 1. Let's go ahead and pray first so I can hit it running instead of making it looking like it's a scripture reading. Father, again, we're thankful for our time. Pray you'd bless the message today. Help it to be an encouragement. Help us to learn from it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So I want to talk to you today about, a little bit about Father's Day and the importance of fathers in the home. Ephesians chapter 6, pick it up here in verse 1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. There comes a point, though, where, obeying your parents isn't necessarily a requirement anymore. Then it just comes back to honoring your parents. But notice it says there, honor your parents in the Lord. And so there should be, obviously, a straight line. If, they're obeying the Lord, we're obeying them. But honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise. Now here, Paul uses an Old Testament illustration in the New Testament. We do that sometimes. Remember, a lot of the Old Testament, it doesn't apply, but it doesn't mean we can just, toss it to the wayside. Even he says there's the first commandment with a promise, that it may be well with thee, and that thou mayest live long on the earth. And so you want to live longer? Honor your parents. Honor your parents. And then you look here at verse 4, and ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. There's a temptation sometimes, and I think we see people fall for it, for dads to, kind of give their kids a hard time. I'm thankful for the time I had with them, but, I had some family and a stepdad that thought, it was their idea of getting me to come to a place where I'm going to face the world. He's going to get made fun of this, out in the world, so we might as well get him used to it now. So they decided, they're going to break me in. Your home should be a place of security, not a place where you're getting made fun of for stuff all the time. And that's, I think that's Bible from here, but I learned it from the opposite side of experience. But it seems to me that so many sermons lately are biblical teachings that are more and more opposite of what mainstream is pushing on us. And it seems like a common theme, but it seems not anytime I bring up a sermon, it's just counterculture. It's counter everything going on right now. And it's not like I'm trying to do that. But I want to say this, we need to have a balance. There's a frighteningly low percentage of people that have a loud voice that makes them seem to be more of a majority than they are. If we're talking about 0.5% of our country does anything, we're still, how many people are in our country right now? 360 million. So that's, 3.6. We're still talking about 1 point some odd million people. If you're talking about 0.5%. Is that right? Anybody do mental math quicker than me? That wasn't right? Oh, you just, okay. 3.6 million. Oh, the 3.6?
Oh, 1% you said, right?
Oh, no, I said 0.5%, so it'd be half of that. So, yeah, so I was about right, just roughly somewhere under 2. Hey, I did it. See, Pastor Matt would be proud of me. So I think sometimes the key is don't overreact. There were some accidental memes I showed during my Sunday school class, some pictures, have some pictures of where we're going, and some memes pop up. Because if I ever hand you my phone and you start scrolling, there might be a picture or two where you just might roll your eyes. Nothing highly inappropriate. Just, you're going to see some memes that might make you a little, Memes are just, they're the way to communicate now. So, but there is right now a slight attack on masculinity. Who needs a man? Needs? No one. But however, the father is still important. But however, there's a danger with a sermon like this. I think all of you here, if we had any visitors, I'd probably have to hit on this a little bit harder. There's a possibility of hurting feelings. There's a possibility of anger. But I was raised by a single mom, and I would never disparage a single mom, ever. Being a single parent is tough, and many times it's not by choice. My mom, if it was her choice, would have been with my dad the entire time. So I'd never disparage a single parent trying her best, ever. I'd never criticize a divorcee. Somebody's been divorcee, that were, come in. Now, an honest conversation, if we could ever have an honest conversation about it, 'cause sometimes you want to learn. And sometimes things happen out of the blue. I also think that a lot of times it doesn't, but it's kind of like we don't get mad at this. If you have a great relationship with your ex and you're co-parenting and it's a great thing and everybody's working out, or you have mom and dad shirts and then you have stepmom and stepdad shirts and you all show up to the same t-ball game, and I just kind of think we hold those people up like, hey, I think it'd be better if we can be that mature to why not just go ahead and stick with the person you're married to and hold those people up. Now again, if you're in that scenario, I would never disparage, ever. But at the same time, I think that if you're getting the same T-shirts and going to the same ball game, chances are that person wasn't abusive. Because you would never hear me say that you should stay in an abusive relationship, ever. I wouldn't do it. And I think I've showed that in the last year. So I doubt that person was, and so many times, and again, I'm not... It's that somebody wants to, something has grown cold. And you know what? I want to be intimate with somebody else for a little bit. And so, we're going to co-parent for the sake of the kids. Well, how about we work on rekindling a marriage for a kid instead? But anyways, that's not where we're at. So that's not what we're going to harp on. So, by the way, abuse is a legitimate reason to leave a marriage, I believe. I know that we say for better, for worse, and there's been parts of me that at times have said, hey, you said for better, for worse. But, if somebody were coming to me and say, well, I'm getting abused, I'm getting hit, then, we did say till death do us part, so let's look at the killing option. We'll go find somebody to do this for you. And then that way you're keeping your vow. But just being tired of a person and wanting to have sex with somebody else isn't a legitimate reason for divorce. But the Bible is very clear. Was I too plain on that when I said that? Okay, good. The Bible is very clear on this. You better not ever afflict the fatherless or God will beat the snot out of you. It's all throughout Scripture about talking about the fatherless. Don't go onto the field of the fatherless. Don't, change the landmarks of the fatherless. Pure religion undefiled before God is this, to visit the widows and the fatherless. When the Bible talks about the fatherless, that's, and by the way, that would have been me growing up. I had I don't think a lot of you even know this person in my life, but, my dad remarried, so I have a stepmom. She lives in Maryland now. And then I have a stepsister named Sarah. She came out and visited recently. We had some interesting conversations. For me, having connections to my childhood is not something I have with, I can't have a conversation about to anybody when I was at my dad's house. I can't, it's getting to where now even old memories that I have, I would have called Mom up and said, hey, what happened back here? Can you straighten that out of my mind? And those things are just gone. But it's interesting because we hadn't known yet that we're going to be living in the country, but my dad always lived in the country. You know where Camas Valley is? Camas Valley is about halfway between Roseburg and Coquille. So imagine just how there's nothing there. Then you go north 4 miles to where there's nothing. You turn right and you go another 4 miles to where there's even less of anything. And I remember my dad, had, lived there for a while. He lived, Riddle, just some pretty interesting places. But Dad left when I was 4 or 5, can't remember which one it was, and I got to watch when he left. That was definitely something to shape my life. And I'm sure for him there were times of regret. But I told Sarah, I think it ultimately turned out for good. Like Joseph, they had bad things happen. I think it all turned out for good. But I will give my kids more than they had, and I think I've proven that so far, than I had. The freedom I had growing up, I had to grow up early. By the time I was in 7th and 8th grade, I was already, doing my own meals, my own laundry, all that sorts of neat stuff. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to bleach your whites every time. And so, about my freshman year, I'm walking around with socks that you pull up your socks and the band comes up and the rest of your sock stays on your foot. So I didn't learn everything well, but, learn those things. But I had complete freedom. I had no rules, no curfew. I could pick up and take off anytime. But you know what? I never disobeyed my mom. I never broke her trust. I never gave her any reason to doubt me whatsoever. However, my dad was a Marine. I don't know if you know that. And but I was talking to Sarah about what her teen years were like, and she's like, yeah, there was always that firmness, always that underlying Marine with him that you could tell. And then I wondered, what would I be like as a teenager if I didn't have freedom? Because I think I earned it. I think I deserved it. I never did anything that I wasn't supposed to do. Other than the worst trouble I ever got in is I TP'd a house. And my mom got pretty mad at that because we couldn't afford anything else. But where are you coming up with money to go buy all these packs of toilet paper? She was mad at me for something else already, and that's just kind of what pushed her over the edge, right? And so she was pretty angry about that. But my teen years was pretty loose, and if I had a father figure there like that, it could have, I think, turned out wrong. But I had a lot of father-like figures, starting early with like my wrestling coach, Scott Cardwell. You've heard me talk to him. Through high school, my weightlifting coach, Tom Hertz. None of my football coaches ever took me under their wing. I don't know why, but my wrestling coach did, my weightlifting coach did, my brother did. And after a time, it was probably about 15 years ago, maybe 18, I can't remember. But I was down talking to Pastor Cavanis after a Sunday night. Not much Bible, but just kind of building a case here. But after talking to him for a while, he looked at me and said, "You grew up without a father in the home, didn't you?" Well, that's kind of a shocking statement, but yeah. And he pointed out, these are some things that are going in your life, and that's the connection there. I was like, oh, wow. And the truth is, it actually opened me up to, I could have been a victim of abuse. Because the way I grew up, that's typically who people try to target, is my understanding. But there's something about the security provided by a two-parent family. It's funny. We had graduation a couple weeks ago, and as I watched Brooke go across the thing and doing her dance on the other side, whatever she does, what is it again? Elbows in. Twist, knees one side. Yeah, flossing. No, that's not flossing. Flossing's this thing, right? And but I thought though Brooke is everything that I wanted to be when I was in high school. Home, family, security, confidence. See, if you looked at me, you thought I had confidence, but I didn't, did I? The wrestler, the football player, the strong kid, and. But if you drive by my house right now, and you do it on your way home if you want, there's a car out in front of my house with pieces, and this is for you, Brooke, because you said that I would do it, now I'm doing it. But we, on Friday night, heard a very loud crash out in front of our house. That's kind of weird. We thought, did somebody hit my trailer? I thought somebody was out back kicking our metal shed. It's like, what in the world is that? But, it's interesting, when something like that happens, I noticed that all three voices in the house asked for me. There's something about that security. One was honey, one was dad, the other was dad. What was that? You need to come look at it. You need to, and so there's a certain security with that. But come to find out, and I'm telling this story because Brooke said that I would, and I said I wouldn't, and I'm just trying not to be prideful. But so some drunk driver drove down our street. And if you know our street, it's 25 miles an hour, and it's not a connecting street. It's a dead end, and Main Street's on the other end. Somebody hit Ashley's car hard enough to push it from our side of the street. It was over in the neighbors across the street's lawn. And they were continuing down, and it was funny, because we're trying to figure this whole thing out. And so I'm out there out front. I may have been packing, because at that point you're like, I don't know what the sound was, but I forgot my glasses. Which right here is fine, but trying to see a block down there, all I see is this car going back and forth, lots of scraping sounds, and this person trying to leave. And so Lisa brought my glasses, went down there and talked to this lady, and she was obviously drunk, and just the front of her car wasn't drivable anymore. And said some of the stupidest things, how drunks are. I'm sorry, I don't put up with drunks. I don't like drunks. Okay, I like you if you're drunk, but however, when you get drunk, I don't want to deal with you. And but Brooke recorded a nice little pep talk she had with the other person was there about being a horrible mother and all this. So that was kind of fun. But as we're trying to figure this out, we're walking down the sidewalk, and so I look, I'm like, Brooke, where's Ashley? Because her car is not there. And it's dark out, and the car's black, right? And so I'm like, Brooke, is it Ashley that just did all this? And she's like, I don't know. It's like, but is she in her room? And this whole time we're trying to figure out, where is Ashley? And so come to find out, she was in her room, asleep just about. And then finally Brooke noticed, hey, wait, her car's over there. And so it was up in the neighbor's lawn. And but anyways, the person got arrested for drunk driving. And so just the extra work that's going to be going into that. But I thought it was interesting, though, that, and I want this still to be the case, Brooke, don't be proud about this. And all of a sudden, next time some calamity hits, we're not going to talk to Dad. But, there's something about Dad. There's something about the security that comes with that. See, so I chose not to belabor the point of using the word fathers throughout the Bible. I could tell you how many times it's in the Bible, and you have to search, because most of the time, most of the time when Jesus said father, he wasn't, even if you do a matching, it doesn't have to match exactly search. Jesus, most of the time, is referring to the Heavenly Father, and you have to get to Paul's writings, Proverbs, and things like that to find, teachings specifically to the dad. But Genesis chapter 18 is what we're going to go with today, if you don't mind. I'll have it up here unless you want to flip over there. I want to show you what God respects in a home. Genesis chapter 18, look at verse 17. And the Lord said, this was before Sodom and Gomorrah. And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, watch this, that he will command his children and his household after him. Now, by the way, that doesn't necessarily mean cracking whips. I'm the leader in my home, and I don't mind. But I've not one time said, bless God, this is my house. Bless God, I'm the leader here, because that's not what leaders do, right? And but notice he says that he will command his children and his household after him. Doesn't necessarily mean barking orders. Because I don't... It would surprise you, I think, to learn that I don't talk that much outside of right here. I get my talking done here. And so then everywhere else, there's just not a lot of it. And if you ride with me somewhere, you just have to be okay with that. Or you come up with the conversations and I'll follow. But no, sir, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. Now, if you notice something, even God commended Abraham for commanding his house after him. Did all of Abraham's kids turn out exactly like he wanted? No. Ishmael. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, our church turns out good kids. Doesn't it? You look at all the kids that have come through here. We turn out good kids. We turn out productive members of society that aren't afraid to work. They may not all believe like we do, but at the same time, they didn't turn out even like Abraham's kids. You look at Samuel and what his kids were doing. Samuel, holy cow, good man. Not one sin is recorded about Samuel. But however, look at what his kids were doing outside of the tabernacle. And it was disgusting. And but anyways, I want to give you some statistics if you don't mind. So we're going to quote more statistics than the Bible today. Family dynamics in the last 40 years have changed. We know this. In 1970, the single parent families were 12%. And again, I'm not disparaging anyways. By the end of the 70s, I was one of them. By 2003, that number had doubled to 26%, and it's expected that half of the children born today will spend some part of their childhood in a single-parent family. Findings overwhelmingly support that the best environment to raise children is in a two-parent family where the parents are married. And again, not getting out of anybody's case. You want your kids to hear this, right? Even if you don't fit in this, don't fit in the same scenario. We want our kids to hear it, right? We want our kids and our grandkids to have the best chance possible. Because, if somebody had told this to my mom and with me listening, I would have heard it. And so don't get mad at the message, because I'm not talking about you if this applies to you right now. Professor Paul Amato of Penn State University said this: children from single-parent families have more behavioral problems, more emotional problems, lower levels of school engagement, that is, caring about school and doing homework. Studies also revealed similar findings for children of divorced parents and cohabitating parents. The dissolution of marriage and uncertainty of cohabitation are reflected in a child's behavior and emotional state. Now, notice that was Penn State University. Does anybody think that Penn State University is a Bible college? No. He goes on, even though divorce is now common and 50% of marriages will end in divorce, Children of divorced parents continued to have lower average levels of cognitive, social, and emotional well-being. The effects of divorce continue into adulthood, where they often attain lower socioeconomic attainment, as well as experience lower psychological well-being, poor mental quality, and an evaluated risk of seeing their own marriage end in divorce. Now, but we hold up parents, and again, it's not your fault. I'm not talking about you. What I'm talking about is our kids, okay? I want our kids to hear this, and I want them to already go into it knowing, hey, we're going to stay married. I also think you ought to choose right, kids? And this is where I'm talking to you, not talking to anybody else. You got to choose right. You got to choose right. And you go through the process of choosing the right person. And, well, we're going to do it for the kids. Well, you choose right for the kids. You stay married for the kids. And again, I'm not talking about cheating. I'm not talking about abuse. Let's just assume that those things aren't going to happen. If they do, that's a different topic. That's a different scenario. But going into another study, this one was 2009 by Cornell University. Again, not a Bible college, right? Cornell University said this. In a 2009 study, well, actually, they didn't say this. It's quoting them because now I'm about to quote them. Research reported that children living with married biological parents have lower levels of risk-taking behaviors. When compared to single-parent and step-parent families, these children reported lower levels of substance abuse, such as smoking, drinking, and drugs, less likely to be sexually active when young, and more likely to have long-lasting romantic relationships. Children in this study were also more likely to start families at an older age when they were married. Remember, the Brookings Institute said you can avoid poverty by doing three things: finishing your high school, wait until you're married to have children, and what was the other one? Have a job, I think it was. And some of these things, matter of fact, we're going to get to that. Libertarians and conservatives sometimes say things like, marriage license, who needs one of those? Why do I need that? Government shouldn't be involved in marriage. And while I kind of agree with that, the marriage makes the next generation stronger. It behooves the government to encourage marriage. It calms men down. It domesticates us a little bit. And I don't know if I should go around asking ladies if their husbands are any more domesticated than before. But, whatever. But it benefits society to view marriage as important and regulated and to encourage it. So, but here's the thing. The difference appears most in one group, and that is teenage girls. Now watch this. Of girls in a family with two parents in a stable relationship, 22% of them had high levels of depressive symptoms. And so that's 1 out of 5 in a normal home. So even if you have a normal home, it doesn't change the fact that there might be depression, there might be some other things going on. But watch this. For girls living with a single parent, this rose to 27%. Just right off the bat. Extra 5% by living with a single parent. Following divorce, and we're just quoting studies here, children are 50% more likely to develop health problems than two-parent families. And one of the things it talked about because of lack of insurance, lack of whatever. And I live with this every day. If you ever, my teeth my front ones are good, but I have fillings all over the place in the back. I have a couple that were pulled in the back early on, but we found out one day, my mom was so mad at my dad. This is after divorce. Found out that his health coverage gave me dental coverage. And here I'd been walking around with cavities and stuff this whole time, but with no recourse, no way to go get it fixed. And so if you know me at all, if you've been here on some of my Wednesdays and asking for prayer requests, you know that I'm not looking forward to a dentist appointment that I need to have soon. And I hate dentists with every ounce of my being. I wouldn't call it a phobia, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. I really don't. I don't know how I'm going to sit. My blood pressure, when I was just going in for the cleaning, they put that little wrist thing on, and they looked at me and said, "Are you in pain right now?" No. Why? It's because you maybe should be in the ER. It's that high. And I'm just like, I'm internally freaked out. You just don't see it right now because my face doesn't show it. And but I sat down for the better part of 3 days with my jaw held open and this piece of plastic there, and just shots after shots after shots. And wasn't fun. Being raised in a married family reduced a child's probability of living in poverty by about 82%. Imagine that. Let's do it for the kid. Well, the bet, yeah. According to the U.S. Census, now this isn't a Christian organization either, is it? Again, I'm not quoting Christian organizations in any of this. According to the U.S. Census, the poverty rate for single parents with children in the United States is 37.1%. So being a single mom, almost immediately 37% chance you're going to live below the poverty line. Now again, we're not cheering that. Nobody wants that. And just, that's the number. The rate for married couples with children was only 6.8%. 6.8. Imagine that. The guy who did the study, Rector, called marriage one of the greatest weapons against child poverty. See, God's design just works. God's design works. But however, we're dealing with humans, right? You marry, and by the way, you do everything right, and there's still a good chance, or I shouldn't say good chance, there's still a chance things go haywire. I know people that, saved everything for marriage. I know people that did everything that what we from the outside would say was right, and still something went haywire in their marriage. I get that. It happens. So we're not speaking we're just speaking in general. Today, 1 in 4 children under the age of 18, so it comes out to 17.4 million, are being raised without a father, and nearly half, which is 45% then, of those live below the poverty line. That's from the U.S. Census Bureau. Half of single-parent kids live in poverty. And by the way, I was one of them. It cracks me up. Occasionally you hear, well, I don't know how to be a dad. Well, apparently just being there and showing up is half the battle. Apparently just being married to their mom is that came out wrong. Half the battle's sitting right here. And no. But listen to me. Fathers are important. Masculinity is important. Now we're talking about, toxic masculinity. But we've got masculinity all goofed up now. Now it's just that somebody's a guy and, wears a fedora and opens a door for you, and all of a sudden that's masculinity. No. Oh, at least we know, her, what's his name again? Corbin, he doesn't do that. Well, he may open doors. I don't know, but he does have a fedora? Oh, okay. I was about to say, yeah, I've seen him in a cowboy hat several times. By the way, I'm getting a cowboy hat, just so you know. I'm going to be moving up. We're going to buy a couple cows. I'm going to be a rancher. You come up there and you make me mad, you're going to the train station, buddy. That's all there is to it. Anyways. But those guys that call themselves masculine and think that you owe them a date because they're a nice guy, that junk? No. But I've said this many times. I'm going to keep saying it. We jump into intimacy way too quick in dating. Intimacy has... I thought somebody was giggling. I'm like, Brooke, really going to giggle in this part? And which you probably will anyways. But we jump into intimacy too quick, and what we do is we cross over things that would be red flags. And so then those red flags pop up after the fact, but we've already been intimate. We've already goofed everything up when it comes to order, and then things go haywire. And then all of a sudden, now we've done that. We jump out of the relationship. We go to another relationship. Now, holding off till marriage isn't as important, so I might as well be intimate with this person as well. And then when we do get married, then wonder why that's an issue. That's something that should only happen between two people. But again, that's Bible. What do I know? It's worth it not to get our dating standards from the world or whatever seems right at the time. So men, when it comes to dating, lead the way. And if not, ladies, lead the way. And if he won't, then lead him out the door. Let's finish up here. Finish up there. Man, I really got your hopes up on that one. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. There's an old joke. Can I quote a crude joke? But it proves the point. What food kills your sex drive? Wedding cake. Just the fact that that joke exists should teach you something. Well, yeah, because you're sneaking around beforehand, then all of a sudden marriage hits. The sneaking aspect is no longer there, and now you have the rest of your life with one person, and some realities start hitting. But if we're intimate before that, there's problems. And just the fact that joke exists to tell you something. First off, they didn't wait like they should, and second off, that God's teaching about waiting until marriage is a thing. Look here, 1 Corinthians chapter 7. And again, we're talking about the importance of fathers and leadership in the home. Now, concerning the thing, and you ladies letting us leave the home, right? See, some of you ladies get it. You really do. You let us think we're running the show. You let us think that we're leading everything, but it's really you quietly in the background, just moving the pieces and manipulating us guys, because we are very easy manipulated. Are we not? Yeah, we are. None of you ladies are fessing up to this. And it's true. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, look at verse 1. We're going to read down to verse 9 here. Paul speaking to the church at Corinth. Now concerning things whereof you wrote unto me, is good for a man not to touch a woman. Pretty plain, isn't it? But now the NIV here says it's good for a man not to marry, just so you know. And so that's kind of confusing. But here it says it's good for a man not to touch a woman. I think about, I'm not much of a toucher. I'm not much of a hugger. I think all the people now, I think in the church I've known longest other than Lisa is probably Miranda, right? I don't think in the 20 some odd years that I've known Miranda, I've so much as shaken her hand. I don't think. We knuckle bumped this morning on the way in, and I tousled somebody else's hair, and I almost tousled, I'll tousle somebody's hair. But our church does have some huggers in it. Becca gets excited about something's emotional. She wants to hug you. She'll come in for it, and there's no denying it. So, there's a spectrum of, people I haven't handshake, and there's people who've gone in for the hug, and you know what? You just go ahead and take it. Right, Angela? Yes. And, if you ever come in for a hug from me, I'm not going to, stiff arm, bring it in for the real thing. We'll go ahead and do it. But I'm not going to initiate it. I'm fine with it, by the way, if you do. But it says there's good for a man not to touch women, but it's not talking about hugging just random people. It's talking about what you think it does. But look here, verse 2. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, notice that there? The Bible teaches that one of the reasons you get married is to avoid sexual sin. It says it. Let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. And again, husbands, fathers here. Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence. You know what that means, right? Do I need to spell it out, draw pictures? Okay, you got it? Likewise, also the wife of the husband. Now look at verse 4. Man, this is the one that... The wife hath not power of her own body, but at the husband. And notice there's also a flip side here. And likewise, also the husband hath not power of his own body, but the wife. It's a two-way street. And I've taught this many times about how the cycle works. But, that's time for another time. But anyways... But however, we don't get married just so we can, be intimate, right? There's other financial issues. There's career issues. You get into Proverbs. There's a whole bunch of different issues. However, there's this one here. But look at verse 5. Now, this is after you're married. Defraud ye not one another, except to be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer. So see that? Fasting and prayer is a reason to be inconsistent. And come together again, that Satan not tempt you not for your incontinency. And so, again... This isn't something I'm going to counsel over the pulpit, but at the same time, if there's begging, asking, and stuff like that, then there's probably some other issues in a marriage that needs to be fixed. And but there could even be things in intimacy that need to be fixed. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to counsel those things across the pulpit right now. So, look at verse 7. Verse 6. But I speak this by permission and not of commandment. And so even Paul softens up his teaching by that verse right there. He's like, but does that mean now everything he just said is tossed out of the window? No. But look here in verse 7. For I would that all men were even as myself. So at this point in his life, Paul was single. That's what he's talking about here. Now, I believe that Paul was married at some point. Remember, one of the requirements of being a pastor is a husband and one wife. Paul wasn't a pastor. He was a Pharisee, and my understanding of Pharisees is that there was a requirement of marriage. And so now he's not a Pharisee, but he's single. And so, he could have been single his whole life. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% positive of that. But he makes it clear about this. But look at this. For I would that all men were even as myself. So he's like, it'd be better if you just went ahead and stayed single. But every man hath his proper gift of God. So in other words, not everybody can handle that. I'm not one of them. Maybe you are. One after this manner, another after that. And it could be that maybe you were married and just don't like people that much, and you're like, I'm never going to do that again. Paul's with you. Verse 8, I say therefore, as to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I. So there we find it could be, I guess, that his wife would have died, right? I guess that's a possibility too, that I didn't really think of until today. But now look at verse 9. But if they cannot contain, let them marry. For it's better to marry than to burn. Oh, that's not talking about burning in hell. It's talking about burning with lust. And it cannot contain. I'm going to share a memory with you. Remember when Gateway Mall was over there and there was the food court and there was the arches and there was neon everywhere? Remember all that? How it was built and on day one it was already dated? You're like, man, this place is awful. But, we still went there because it's Springfield's Mall, bless God. We don't have to go all the way over to Valley River anymore. And we can go in there. There was Tilt. There was the walk. What do they call that? Can't remember. But, man, it was noodles and chicken. That place was awesome. There was all sorts of neat stuff over there. And that's before they added on stuff on the outside. The Kohl's, the Cabela's. It was just a mall where you walk the inside. But my memory, every time I drive by there, is that we were asked, Lisa and I, while we were dating in high school, to go have lunch with her cousin and his wife. The only thing I remember from this conversation, see, the more I think back, the more I realize that there were people sicked. When you sick a dog on somebody, is the past tense sicked? They sent people, dead sick? I don't know. I don't know how that works. But, looking back, I see that there are times in my life where, I see what happened there. Somebody sent them, because this conversation didn't just come out of anywhere. It's kind of like one time Lisa was making me dinner at her house before we were going to be going to, some other event. And, right at that moment comes knocking the youth pastor of the church. Oh, okay, this is a coincidence. Which, by the way, I'm glad he came. I'm not. But at the same time, I get it. But if you weren't comfortable with us having the house, but have dinner, there, then don't leave. But or send over the youth pastor. That works too. But Lisa's cousin and his wife, the gist of the conversation was, there's more to marriage than sex. Because, from early on, we knew we were going to get married. We were 15 and 14 when we started dating, right? That I was a sophomore in high school. She was a freshman in high school. From 3 weeks in, we knew. I knew. This is a done deal. I don't know if it wasn't a done deal for her as quickly as it was for me. I think you took an extra 3 days, right? Or whatever it was. Between us, don't do this yourself. I had already asked her to marry me by the time we were together for a month. And she looked at me like I'm silly. And this was in high school. It was a Silky Field parking lot. And I knew. I'm like, I'm ready. Let's do this. Now, I don't mean we're going to get married tomorrow. And she kind of, but by the time she got home, she realized, man, you don't want to let this one go. And and by the way, don't judge on looks, but because you look at that guy right now, and I'm not talking about Corbin, but they're muscular, skinny, tall, they have a full head of hair. They turn into this. And you just have to be okay with that. So love a person for who. Now, some of you fight it very well. I try to fight it with a little bit less success. But now watch this. That was the gist of the conversation. Paul would teach differently. Now, no, we're not just getting married just so we can be intimate with somebody. No, that's not what the call is here. But, however, getting married is important. There's more to marriage than sex. Well, duh. Really? I would have never figured that out. I've had a few comments lately. I guess I was somewhat of a hothead as a teen. I'm not sure if that surprises any of you. Not as much of a filter as I have now. But I was reminded of one time, Lisa was worried at one point because, sometimes I was a hothead, but I promised her, and I looked at her and said this, my anger will never be aimed at you. Ever. Because I do have a short switch sometimes. But it will never be aimed at you. And I think I've kept that promise now for, how long have we been together? 30, what year is it? 32 years, 3 months. I think we're at right now. And yeah. But guys, listen. Let's just break this down. Men don't hit women, they protect them. Men don't abuse women, they protect them. Men don't manipulate women, they protect them. Men control their urges and temptations. Fathers put their families first over their desires, doubts, frustrations, and insecurities. But through this whole sermon, I have one thing that I'm going to ask of you. One point, you can go ahead and jot this down. I have one to do for you on this Father's Day. And that's this. Compliment a father. Society's really jumping on dads right now. We can't do anything right. Compliment a father. We guys don't get compliments. You know that, right? I still remember compliments I got 15, 20 years ago because I only have gotten like 3 of them, And, of course your mom, will tell you you're handsome, but no. And by the way, ladies, none of the rest of you, Lisa's the only one that says that to me. But anyways, nobody else believes it anyways. I get that. But, Simon, you're out of luck on that one. But, one parting shot. But, we don't get compliments. You ladies, what's it like coming to church on a Sunday morning? And by the way, don't mock me on this. Oh, those are nice shoes. Where'd you get them? Oh, your hair looks lovely today. Oh, and you hug each other. You compliment each other. You know what we guys are doing, and we're not going to change it. We're slapping each other on the back. See when they leave the doors unlocked, man, what will show up if we, and all this stuff. Because we're always insulting each other, right? By the way, I don't want a compliment from Judd. Actually, I do at some point. But, by the way, for those of you that have a long memory or maybe even a short memory, don't see very many compliments, what you do is you take screenshots and save emails. What so many people do is they save screenshots and emails when things are negative. I screenshot and save emails, and I keep those. I can still tell you the date of the woman who peed out in our front yard because I have the email that was a compliment from somebody in this church. That then, matter of fact, it was the Johnsons. And matter of fact, I have 3 emails from you guys and a note from Josie that I have in my proximity at my house. And Josie cracks me up. When we painted we used to have, our house used to be green. And we painted it yellow. And she was so mad at us. I want green church back. She equated pastor's house with church. And but anyways, I know the date of the woman peeing on our front part there in 2005 because I got an email that evening that complimented how we handled it. I got an email one time when somebody left the church on how I handled it, and then come to find out, I think those people are mad. I kept the email anyways because I handled their leaving the same exact way I did those other people. And but I got an email to prove that they were okay with it at some certain point. Because when people leave, I talk about it. Hey, this is what happened, and I think I'm pretty honest about it. But see, that was 5 minutes I didn't plan on, Judd. Here's your takeaway from the sermon. Find a father and compliment him. Tell him don't tell me he's a decent tie, because that's only me, right? Oh, Joe. Compliment Joe's tie. And, it's harder. I get that. But we never get them. And there's all sorts of support for women. But, we guys, we're just expected to squish everything down. And just one day, everything erupts in a fountain. And everybody looks at us like we're the bad guy. We act tough, but we need reassurance. We act tough, but we're not really. We may, have a short fuse. We may be able to fight. But you know what? We're insecure. Look at that guy, that father, as a young kid. Because he's still that little young kid. He's still, still playing with stinking toys. It's just now our toys go bang where they used to be something we'd push back and forth. My first toys were Hot Wheels, and now it's a convertible. It's all the same thing. We're still that guy from back there. But so find a guy, compliment him, let him know he's doing a good job, and that's the takeaway for the sermon. Happy Father's Day. Let's pray.